What's up, YouTube? Hooch here. First, I want to give a quick shout out to everybody who stopped by the stream live on release day, which was now yesterday. Put a solid 10 hours into the game. Went pretty much as long as I could until about 2 a.m. my time, and at that point, I just had to kind of call it quits. And I wanted to record instead of cutting together, 10 hours of footage. I figured what I'd do is mainly just kind of give my highlights and impressions over at least the day one experience or the first 10 hours of the game, and do it a little bit more short and concise, which is some feedback I've gotten. So thanks also to everybody who stopped by the YouTube channel and given me their thoughts and feedback. First, for quick context, I am a big Diablo fan, mainly Diablo 2. I did play the original Diablo, but spent way more time playing Diablo 2, and then the Diablo 2 Resurrected, which came out a couple years ago. I played Diablo 3 when it launched, sat in queue, got the Area 37 like everyone, but unlike Diablo 2, I never really went back and played Diablo 3. It never really had that, it never really got its hooks into me, I guess. And I think that's kind of true for a lot of people because they made a D2R game in the first place, and I doubt we'll see a Diablo 3 Resurrected, although maybe we will. In terms of Diablo 4, I went into it almost completely blind. I basically had watched one video that was actually from a Diablo 2 creator who was kind of describing the differences between the two games and why, in his mind, Diablo 4 was going to be inferior. But that was mainly on like some of the mechanics that is in D2 but is missing from D4. So I didn't know anything. Like, I never watched any theory crafting on builds. I never watched certainly any spoilers. So I went into this about as blind as I could, and I wanted to do that because you get a Diablo game, it seems like so far, about once every decade. So only got to experience it once. I wanted to experience it on my own and not through like a YouTube video. I also didn't take part in the beta. So this is the first 10 hours of the game that I've played, period. And so if you're looking for that kind of perspective, great, you came to the right place. My computer is aggressively mid-tier. It might even be below mid-tier. So if you don't have like a 4090 or whatever the top graphics card is, my experience, which I'll talk briefly about in terms of performance, will potentially mirror yours. The main frame rate drops come from loading in new areas, which can sometimes mean you just sort of have to like wait for a few seconds, just don't move, just let it load, let the computer catch up, which is a little annoying, but it's not that bad, honestly. It literally only would take a few seconds. And then in towns, I'm not moving around now, but you'll definitely get some stutters because there's a lot of other players and there's more assets, more textures, I guess, that have to get loaded in. When you go to something like a dungeon, which is instance, so it's just going to be you, basically, I almost never had any kind of frame rate issues or lag. And I only had one crash that I think is attributable to the game. So for a launch day, it's not bad. The other crash I had, I think, is just, again, I have a mid-tier computer. I'm trying to stream it. I'm trying to have windows open, browsers open and tabs and all that kind of stuff. So I think I just kind of ground my computer down. So one crash of the game just sort of closed, but there wasn't a queue, probably because this is the sort of early, quote, early access, 4-day early access. So that's probably why. And again, all of this is a day one, first 10-hour sort of review. So some of the stuff I say could absolutely change. But at the very least, the beginning 10 hours aren't really probably going to change. And I am playing Tier 2. So again, I am playing World Tier 2. The difference, if you don't know, is that it's a little bit harder. The minions or the monsters are supposed to give you a little bit more gold, a little bit more experience. I did it mainly, I just wanted a little bit more of a challenge, especially early game. You can see a little bit of lag there. Early game tends to be pretty easy in most ARPGs. But the cool thing is there is these little world tier statues that you can basically just toggle between the different the different worlds, tier 1 and tier 2. So if you're brand new to ARPGs, or you just want a really chill playthrough, just pick tier 1, no problem. So this is what I was basically able to accumulate in the first 10 hours. Again, I'm not going to say that I progressed the fastest. They have a transmog, I'll just mention briefly, in the game. So this is kind of what my gear actually looks like. Legendaries seem to drop, relatively decently. This is actually not a legendary. This is basically I created legendary by imprinting, but I was able to find 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, about 5. This ring was actually my first ever legendary. Posted it to Twitter. I was slightly, maybe a little bit too proud or too excited about it, but yeah, within 10 hours I was able to find, like I said, 5 legendaries, it looks like. So I mean, on average that's once every 2 hours, but in reality I didn't find my first legendary until probably a couple hours in, probably like 3 hours in. So I wouldn't worry too much about the drop rates on these anyway. You're going to replace gear really frequently, so it kind of sucks because like I'm going to replace this pretty soon. I barely even use this with my rotation, but anyway. And yeah, I know, so I went into this blind. Yes, I know now that Whirlwind Barbarian is actually like one of the better, at least endgame builds, but I'm number 1 not at endgame, and number 2 I normally play with Sork, would be like my D2 pick, but I knew that Teleport, because in D3 wasn't as broken as it was in D2, so I wanted to play something new and different than my standard number 1 for like first class build. So I mean, this is my build. Like, again, I ended up on the Whirlwind Barbarian. I mean, people told me, oh yeah, that's the good one. I did it because it works well. Whirlwind has been a thing. You know, in D2 you would get the Immortal Cage set, and you could farm a decent amount of hell difficulty with it. I have no idea if I haven't looked at any builds. I have no idea if this is optimal. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's not. But until I hit a major roadblock and I am not progressing through content that I probably should be, i.e., is, you know, on my level, maybe then I'll look at a build. But like, this has been fun for me, just reading the different nodes, trying to kind of figure out what synergizes well. You can easily, and either in town or not in combat, but well, maybe you could, I never tried it, but in world you can just refund points, and you see here it says the refund cost is like pretty low in gold. Maybe once you get to like level 100, or once you get up there, the gold cost becomes ridiculous, but until level 8 it's actually free. And then until now, I mean, I have 105k gold. I have literally never sold anything to a vendor. I have salvaged everything, which may not be the right call, but that's what I've been doing. So I am not in a gold pinch, at least from a like respecking perspective. And I do like the skill tree. It's, like I said, it's nice. It's a bit spread out for sure, but you know, you can't expand it if you want it the whole screen. And you know, quickly the way it works is just this meter will start to fill up with red once you put enough points in. And so you can see here I can't like pick anything from this tree yet because I need to spend more points in the trees prior, or the nodes prior. Combat on the barb, you know, it's fun. It's pretty basic, at least. I've seen some other classes look like they might be having a little bit more fun, but just in the sense that they're using more abilities. But ultimately, like, it is fun to just get in the middle of it and not have to worry about being a glass cannon, and just get in there and just, like they say, spin to win. I don't know exactly where that phrase came from. I want to say World of Warcraft, but pretty much any game, League of Legends has a character that spins, and everyone says spin to win. So in any event, you know, pretty much what you're doing is just like filling up your rage meter, your fury meter rather, and with like your basic attack, and then you kind of buff yourself in your party, and then once this is full, you literally just hold down the right trigger, spin through, and it's been good for mobs, it's been good for bosses. So I have died a few times, but I haven't come across anything that I couldn't beat. And actually, real quick, I meant to mention when I was talking about the stability issues, I have so far only had one quest just sort of break. There'll be no spoilers in the video, but there is a demon boss on a mount, that's all I'll say, who I beat him, and for whatever reason, the next sort of part of the quest didn't trigger. So sadly, I had to go back, and it sucks that it was a boss, because it was like a 10-minute fight or something like that. And it was kind of fun, but like doing it the second time wasn't fun. And it wasn't fun being like, oh my gosh, is this going to like brick it again and not work? Thankfully, it worked the second time. I posted something on Twitter, and I think enough people were having it because I got one reply, and I have a brand new account, or an account that I never posted on. And immediately someone replied and said, hey, I've had the same issue. I just tried it again and it worked. And I was already doing that anyway, because the idea that Blizzard was going to respond and 10 minutes in the time it took me to just try it again, this is obviously not going to happen. So other than that, though, I haven't had too much of an issue. In regards to the story, I actually like the story. I didn't really love the D3 story. D2 story was good, but it, it was a full AAA game, but just production levels were different back then. So I am actually interested in story. I am progressing in a way that, like, I want to learn more about the story. I want to learn more about the lore, the characters, and I'm genuinely interested in, like, what's next, basically. So that's pretty good, especially for an ARPG where a lot of times it's just power progression, dominating vast hordes of enemies, and gear drops, loot drops. So, and within that, I do like that there are in-game sort of in-engines, but they're cutscenes, but they're actually cinematic. So they're not just like top-down zoom or view like normal ARPG view with some dialogue at the bottom. They're actually they're actually cinematic. And there's been a handful of them that I've seen so far. So that's really cool. So yeah, all in, I mean, it is $70, right? It's not 60, so it is up there. But if you enjoy ARPGs, if you enjoy Diablo itself and you're looking for something fresh, like I'm always looking for a new game to play, so far I've had a lot of fun. So I can honestly recommend the game itself. I don't know much about the microtransactions. I've accidentally clicked on the store once. I don't see myself spending much or any money on microtransactions in general. But if you do, like, it's fine. At the end of the day, I briefly checked when I clicked on it, and it didn't seem like they were selling anything relating to gear progression. It doesn't seem like it's like Diablo Immortal in that sense at all, which is awesome, which it shouldn't be, because again, $70 game, plus there's going to be season passes apparently. So yeah, if you're looking for something new, if you're looking for something to sink your teeth into for at least a little while and then potentially come back to once they release more content, I can suggest it. So anyway, that's about it for me. Wanted to keep it as concise as possible. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask down below. And also, if you have any feedback on this video, if you happen to stop by the stream, previous videos, I am brand new basically to content creation. I've only been doing it for about 2 weeks, so I genuinely appreciate any of the feedback you guys give, as long as it's, of course, at least a little constructive. I'll post a link down below to my Twitch. I stream, like I said, a variety of things, so I might be streaming Diablo, I might be streaming something else, but appreciate if you drop a like on the video, subscribe, or come by Twitch and hang out. So, in any event, that's it for me. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.